So this is Andrew with a test recording. I just want to see what the sound quality is actually like with this and see how it comes out. Thank you. So welcome to a very special one-off webinar, which is coming to you live from Cyprus, and you might in fact be able to hear the breakers in the background. I'm actually literally 30 yards from the beach in the open air, and it's 10 p.m. in the evening local time, but the temperature is still very pleasant. It must be about 21, 22 degrees. So I've got some great stuff to share with you tonight, all about the miraculous healing properties of water. So let me just get started with the correct slide layout, and then we'll get going. So my name's Andrew Bridgewater, for those who haven't met me before. I'm a chartered psychologist, and I would consider myself now an alkaline diet expert because I've been working in this field full-time for almost 3 years. And it's a field that's ever developing, which is why I love it so much. When I first started to research and write my first program, the AV Diet, back in the summer of 2008, I first came across some amazing information about the miraculous healing properties of water. And this is what I want to share with you tonight because it really is quite life-changing information. Now, this is the typical webinar promise. You are going to be able to use what I'm about to share with you and follow this formula. You'll get some terrific results. I am going to show you a faster way, but I'm not going to do the in-your-face sales about this. You're going to get a very, very relaxed approach this evening because what I want to do above all else is engender your curiosity, because what I have to share with you is really quite profound, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to sink in, and that's absolutely fine with me. I'm not in a rush to convince you of anything, but I do have some amazing information to share with you. And here we go. So let me just tell you a little bit about my story. I'm going to tell this very briefly because some of you already know this from being on previous webinars with you, but that was me back in July of 2007, age 45. Now, I'm carrying a lot of excess weight there. There's about 22 kilos more on there than there is now. I was unhealthy. I was very, very lethargic, very overweight. I lacked energy, I lacked vitality, and I just thought, well, this is how middle age is. You know, at 45 you begin to think, well, maybe this is the end. You know, it's all downhill from here on. I got routinely ill. I used to suffer a lot of stress, didn't used to sleep terribly well. My whole life was in a rut, really, in terms of my relationships, my job, my income levels. But something major happened. And I've told this story in my first program, the AV Diet, in various other places, but there is a point sometimes where we just get it, where we think, no, I'm not prepared to tolerate this level of pain any longer. And I reached what Tony Robbins called threshold in a lift in London, and I can remember exactly when it was. It was June of 2007. And the four-way mirror in this lift just told its own story. And at that point, as I say, I was looking like this, and I just thought, who is the fat, stressed out, overweight guy in the lift? I've got to do something about it. So I did, and I put into practice some information that I'd found out all about at a Tony Robbins seminar called Unleash the Power Within. And that was 2 years before, in May of 2005. So you can see that to know and not to do is not yet to know. You know, I knew this stuff, but I wasn't doing it. I wasn't putting it into practice. But once I did, everything changed. I became much more healthy. I lost 50 pounds or 22 kilos, 3.5 stone in weight in just 6 months. I felt youthful, full of vitality and energy. The ailments, the stress, so much changed in my whole life. But what on earth made the difference? Well, some very simple things that I started to follow based on the information that I'd learned at that Tony Robbins seminar, which became daily habits and still are now. And I've shared those more widely in the AV Diet in some of my other programs. But the area that I want to focus on tonight is quite simply the most important of those daily habits that I put into practice. And it's all about proper hydration. And when I first researched the AV diet back in July of 2008, I used to advocate that people drank 2 to 3 litres of water a day. And I said, tap water's fine, you know, it's not a problem, you need to be properly hydrated. I've learned an awful lot more since then. And, you know, fortunately, there's an ever-increasing sophistication of information out there, and the internet makes it all available very, very quickly. And I've researched this whole area of hydration in a lot more detail, which is why I can bring you such an in-depth approach this evening. I should just say I'm doing a webinar by torchlight for the first time, which is quite an experience. So if you've not tried it, I do thoroughly recommend it. So, do any of these seem familiar to you? They were very familiar to me back in 2007 when I was overweight, as you saw earlier. Do you sort of feel that you lack energy and natural vitality? Do you feel it's difficult to get out of bed in the morning? Do you feel that you just lack that oomph that maybe you've had in a previous time in your life, or you see other people enjoying? You think, I would really love some of that. Do you look and feel old before your time, in your opinion? Are you taking medications for minor ailments? And one of the most common is skin problems, eczema, rashes. Do you suffer allergies, hay fever? You're not sleeping well. Do you feel stressed? Well, I discovered that water shortage really is the background to most of the health problems in our society. And these are not my words. These are the words of Dr. Batman Helgi, who trained as a medical doctor at a recognized medical university in London, and yet he moved away from the traditional pharmaceutical approach to illness. And that was sort of forced upon him by circumstances, really, because he became a prisoner in Iran for a number of years. And while he was held captive, he was the only doctor in that prison, and he was forced to administer to the needs of other prisoners, some of whom were extremely ill, very, very seriously ill. And all he had to use in those circumstances, that environment, was water. And Dr. Batman Helgi performed some incredible miracles using the healing properties of water. And he subsequently went on to become very famous. He's been interviewed many, many times by Tony Robbins, and I've got a website where I can show you where you can get a copy of that interview free of charge. It's the most tremendous interview, and I refer to it in my first program, The AV Diet. So this is some of the information that Dr. Batman Helgi shares, which I think is so, so crucial for us about proper hydration. The point is that each of the trillions of cells in your body needs water to provide it with basic electro energy. Now, that sounds fine. You might think, oh yeah, I know that. I'm getting water, I'm drinking tea, I'm drinking coffee, I'm drinking fruit juices. All of those things don't count, I'm afraid. It's water that your body needs to provide it with basic electro energy. And if you're not providing your trillions of cells with water, then you're likely to be suffering some, if not many, of the consequences that I just referred to on the previous slide. And the big problem that we have as humans is that we don't manifest dehydration well. By the time we get a dry mouth, it's already too late, and we're already starting to feel dehydrated, which reminds me, I'm just going to take a swig of water. I never run a webinar without water. Now, the interesting thing here is that there have been studies where old people have actually died of dehydration because they hadn't realized that they needed to drink. So if you're waiting for a dry mouth before you drink water, it's already too late and you're already dehydrated. And this is a crucial point, really. So there's almost a malfunction in the system here. And I think the other problem that we have is that most people have got used to being in an almost chronic state of dehydration. And when they begin to hydrate properly, inevitably they want to use the bathroom more than they did before, because their bladder and kidneys are just not used to being in a state of proper hydration. And at that point, a lot of people then back off and say, oh no, it's literally too inconvenient, that it is awkward. But the reality is you have to develop into this, and I'll say a bit more about that later. But the tragedy is that many people are taking medication for symptoms that are just complications of dehydration. Now that seems terrible, criminal to me, because any form of medication is going to have side effects. It's also further dehydrating, and it's not getting to the root cause of whatever problem you have that it's causing, manifesting those symptoms. And when you actually get to the root cause by drinking 2 to 3 litres a day of the right type of water, and I'm going to go on to say what I mean by the right type of water, then you often release the need for that sort of medication on an ongoing basis. Now just think how much money that's going to save you, how much in the way of side effects it's going to save you, how many trips to the doctors, the pharmacists, but quite clearly the pharmaceutical profession and industry does not have a vested interest in sharing this information, which is one of the reasons why Dr. Batman-Helge became a bit of an outcast in the traditional medical world, because he was literally a voice in the wilderness. But as I say, his arguments and his thoughts and his research have been well listened to and well taken up by some very, very eminent people, as I say, amongst them Tony Robbins, who I have a very high regard for. So proper foundation really is the foundation for a lifetime of good health. And it's no accident that it became the first chapter in my first program, The Ad Vitality Way of Living, the AV Diet, because without proper hydration, you just don't have the foundation on which to build good health for life. Now, you can actually see more firsthand what Dr. Batman-Helge has written and said about the amazing healing properties of water, the miraculous healing properties of water, at his website, www.watercure.com. And on that site, you can also listen to or download a 2-part interview that he did with Tony Robbins, which I've included as part of the AV Diet. But I would thoroughly recommend anybody to visit that site. It's available free, those 2 audio interviews. It really is life-changing information and well worth listening to. So it's useful that you get it from the man himself, not just from me secondhand. Well, what I want to share with you now are the literal transformative results that proper hydration creates in a matter of weeks. Now, I started working with Alkaline on the 15th of December 2010, before Christmas, and by the end of the first week in January, with Christmas and New Year just having gone, so that was 3 weeks later, she went from looking like that on the left to looking like that on the right. Now, I know the hairstyle is different, but just look at the clarity in the eyes, look at the skin tone, look at the face shape, look at the general well-being and wellness in Eileen's physiology. Now, you know, that's 3 weeks. And Alkaline wouldn't mind me telling you that she'd had many, many challenges in lots of different areas, lots of different medications, and yet by making some simple changes, of which the most profound and important was proper hydration, she was able to create those amazing results in as little as 3 weeks, which I just think is quite incredible. Now, I said earlier that it's not just about drinking the right amount of water. You actually need to drink the right type of water. And the first property that your water must have is it must be alkaline. Now, this goes back to the whole basis of the acid-alkaline diet principles, which I share in a lot more detail in my program, one of which is at the AV Diet, and I've got many other programs out there on the internet. But the key principle here is that in order to be optimally healthy, the pH, in other words, the acid-alkaline content of your blood, needs to be at or around 7.365. Now, as you see, it's a scale from 0 to 14. 0 is very strongly acid, will burn a hole in steel. 14, very strongly alkaline, neither of which is a good thing. And we actually need to be just the alkaline side of the middle. So 7.365, as you see, is just the alkaline side of the middle range. Now, drinking alkaline water is the easiest way to alkalize your body. There are other ways you can do it. You can eat lots of leafy green vegetables. You can take sensible aerobic exercise within the fat-burning range, which I've explained in many of my programs. You can relax the mind every day. There are a number of ways in which you can alkalize the body, but the simplest and the most powerful way is to drink between 2 and 3 liters of alkaline antioxidant water every day. Now, if you do that, you can pretty much consume a typical Western acidic diet, and you will be much, much healthier already. Because many people say to me, well, look, you know, I just have a challenging lifestyle. I'm out on the road all the time. It's very difficult for me to get healthy meal stops. I say to them, well, okay, it's all about choices. We are the sum of our choices. And if you're really not prepared to make the effort and to change the habits and patterns around all of your nutrition, then this area of hydration, proper effective hydration with alkaline antioxidant water, is the easiest and the most powerful way to alkalize your body and your bloodstream. Now, I was amazed when I came across the research of Sang Wan, who's written a book called Reverse Aging. And Sang Wan describes aging as simply the result of the accumulation of acid wastes in the body. Now you can see that if you consume a typical acidic Western diet for 30, 40, 50 years, you've got an enormous toxic buildup of acidity in the body. And what happens is that that acidity creates free radicals and enables free radicals to flourish in your body. And you may be aware that antioxidants actually eliminate free radicals. Free radicals are simply cell molecules which have an electron missing. Antioxidants have properties which have extra electrons. In other words, they're able to neutralize those free radicals. Now, people spend a fortune on antioxidants and products that have antioxidant properties. You know, we're talking creams, juices, waters, all sorts of things. But the reality is there is a very simple way of not just alkalizing your body, but of eliminating or reversing the effects of aging by increasing your intake of antioxidants. So the first thing to do, if you want to reverse or delay aging, is to reduce your intake of caffeine. Caffeine is very toxic. In quantity, it's used as an insecticide, as a rat poison, and really it is not healthy. I don't care what anybody says about its relaxing properties. Ultimately, it is not a long-term fix. It is not going to help you get healthy, because what happens is your body pays more attention to the removal of toxins than it does to the removal of fat. So if you're consuming caffeine, despite the fact that your coffee may be without milk or cream or sugar, you're still adding to the toxicity of your bloodstream, and therefore your blood is not going to be optimally healthy. You should also be reducing your intake of alcohol. And I'm not going to do the alcohol lecture here, but alcohol is the product of decay. It's also extremely acidic. Next to smoking, it's pretty much the most acidic thing you can do as a lifestyle. So I've very, very much reduced my alcohol, and it's a bit like creating a free-flowing, clean river rather than a stagnant pond. And when you do that, you don't want to introduce toxins back into it, because the effects become apparent literally in the moment, in the body. And whenever I consume alcohol now, it just gets straight to me, and I know I need very, very little alcohol to feel the effects, which means I'm a cheap date, I'm a cheap night out, and that suits me just fine. Now, fizzy drinks, sodas as they're called in the States, especially the diet varieties, these are seriously toxic. And there's some amazing demonstrations on some of the videos that I'll show you, you can get access to later, which demonstrate the rusting, the oxidizing properties, in other words, the internally rusting capability that fizzy drinks in particular, and especially the diet varieties, have. So really, you've got to avoid these things. Have you noticed that people who drink the diet varieties, so-called diet varieties of sodas or fizzy drinks, they often end up more overweight and unhealthy than those that drink the sugared versions? I'm not recommending either, by the way. So you should be reducing your intake of caffeine, alcohol and fizzy drinks, but more importantly than that, drinking 2 to 3 litres of alkaline antioxidant rich water every single day. Now you say, well, that sounds fine, that sounds quite simple. It's harder to do than you think, because I would imagine if you're not already doing that, you're in a current state of dehydration. And when you start to hydrate properly, it's actually quite hard work. You have to be quite disciplined and quite regimented to make it happen, which is one of the reasons why I provide people with a water diary in the AV diet, so that you can actually regulate your intake of water for those first 3, 4 or 5 days when it feels really quite difficult to consume 2 to 3 litres of water. But persist and your bladder and kidneys will strengthen, as I said earlier. Now, this is where I really want to introduce you to Kangen water, which is by far the best antioxidant alkaline rich water that I have found. And the benefits that I have experienced after just 4 weeks of drinking Kangen water are amazing. Um, for example, I am already pretty healthy. I have to be as part of what I do. It would not be good for me to be wandering around unhealthy, toxic, very overweight, promoting the AV diet and all the other products and webinars and seminars that I promote. I have to be healthy. But even though I've been drinking 2 to 3 litres of water every single day for the last 3 years, I still had some health challenges. And one of those was I consistently had very, very painful cracked heels. The skin at the back of my heels was really painful, and I used to have to put cream on that every single day, and on occasions those cuts, those cracks would get infected and become really, really uncomfortable, such that I couldn't walk some days, despite the fact that I was apparently properly hydrating myself. But since I've been drinking Kangen water in just 4 weeks, I have eliminated the pain, and the cracked heels have just gone away completely, which I think is totally profound. I've also been waking up an hour earlier and feeling fully refreshed. Now, time is the limited resource in our lives. Money is not the limited resource, believe it or not. If you trade your limited and valuable time for money, you may have formed the mistaken belief that money is limited. It isn't. Time is. Therefore, if you can wake up an hour earlier feeling refreshed, in other words, you need an hour's less sleep, what can you do with an extra hour every single day? An awful lot if you put it to productive use, and I certainly have been, and I feel terrific now since I've been drinking Kangen water, and as I say, I was already healthy. One of the other things I've noticed is that the lines on my face, especially my forehead, have reduced significantly in just 4 weeks. Now, I find that amazing. Now, I'm not one to, spend money on creams for my face and all this sort of thing, but I know that a lot of people, particularly women, are going to want to be quite concerned about their facial appearance. And as we age, as we get into our 30s, 40s, and 50s, the wrinkles make an appearance, shall we say. People spend a fortune on anti-wrinkle creams, which aren't actually getting to the root cause of the problem. So I was delighted to find that the lines on my face are actually reducing. Now, those are just 3 physical manifestations of drinking Kangen water for me, but what's actually going on at a cellular level? And as I say, now that I will do this for the rest of my life, the slight edge daily compounded effects are going to be truly amazing, and I'm so excited to be able to share this with you, because it is just literally life-changing. Because as I say, I was already alkaline and I already felt very healthy. I had to be to do what I do. So if you, like me 4 weeks ago, were not drinking Kangen water, if you're not drinking Kangen water now, there really is a missing link in your health plan, in my view, because I can talk from personal experience as to how profound it's been for me. Now, why do I get these benefits, and why would you get these benefits from drinking Kangen water? Well, for a start, it is highly alkaline. You can set the machine for different alkaline settings, and it recommends you start at 8.5 to start with, which you can see is very well the other side of 7.365. And I should say that the acid alkaline scale is not is logarithmic. It's not linear, it's logarithmic or exponential. In other words, there's a massive difference between 7.365 and 8.5. We're not just talking about just over 1 point. It is a very significant difference. And what the recommended approach to this is that you begin with 8.5 pH and you gradually move up to 9.0 and then 9.5, which is as strong as you should be drinking. You can use 10.5 for other uses, and the way I use that is to remove pesticides and insecticides from vegetables. Because as you know, non-organic vegetables and many fruits are sprayed with pesticides and insecticides, which are not removed by ordinary water, but they will be removed by 10.5 pH water, and therefore effectively I'm getting organic fruit and vegetables for the price of inorganic, and that's a considerable saving. Now, the other point, and this is the really interesting thing, and I think this is what's responsible for my cracked heels clearing up, is that Kangen water has a very high negative oxidation reduction potential. Now, it's the negative that we're looking for here. It's the ability to reduce oxidation, or that rusting that goes on inside when we drink oxidizing water. Now, take green tea, for example. People rave about green tea because it has an ORP, or an oxidation reduction potential, of around about -70. But the water that comes out of my Kangen water machine has an ORP, a negative ORP of -400. So you can see that it's more than 4 times as as anti-rusting, 6 times as anti-rusting as green tea. Now, green tea is mildly acidic, but if you drink red bush tea, which is alkaline or alkalizing, you drink red bush tea with Kangen water, then you can see that you're getting a terrific drink because it's an alkaline tea, but it's also in antioxidant rich water, which is also very alkaline. So you can see that the health benefits really do compound very quickly. Now, the other thing about this amazing water is that it has a different molecular structure. The molecules are smaller, and I am convinced that's why it hydrates better, because it's able to find its way through the cell walls more effectively and therefore be much more easily absorbed into the body. I am a total convert to this water. It is really just absolutely amazing. It will do more for you than I can possibly tell you, and I'm hoping that you can pick up the incitement in my body, which is why I'm not going to sell you this machine. I really am not. What I want to do is I want to encourage your curiosity. I want to encourage you to find out more about it and to approach me for information, because quite literally this machine will do more for you than I can ever tell you. Now, I've created a special website where you can actually find out a lot more about Kangen water, and it's at www.addvitality.com. and if you select the videos on the right hand side of that website, you'll see a whole series of videos which talk you through the different benefits and properties that Kangen water will deliver to you. Now, it doesn't just produce alkaline water, it actually produces acid water, which has great astringent properties and is also used as a disinfectant. Now, this particular machine that I use is certified as a medical device in Japan. It's manufactured in Japan. It's not manufactured anywhere else in the Far East. It's actually manufactured in a very total quality environment, ISO 9000 in Japan. And for that reason, and for the quality of the water, they've been awarded a medical certification in Japan, which speaks volumes. So these videos, do watch them because they contain the most interesting and useful health information that I've ever become aware of, and I'm hoping that you will ever have seen, because I just think it is quite profound. So what I want to do now is I'd like to answer some questions on the call here, but I'd also like to give you the opportunity to email or call me. Andrew@addvitality.com is my email, or you can call me on 447757056720. And I've created a special video for you, which is a demonstration of my own Kangen machine, my own SD501 Platinum at home, and I'm showing you the various benefits and the properties of this water in my own kitchen at home. And that's a static image of the machine there. But if you go to that YouTube video, you'll actually be able to see me demonstrating my own machine in my own home. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to open up the line for questions.